Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive with us. And today we're going to be tackling a pretty controversial book, actually.
Yeah,
Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
it's a good one.
It's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those books that people have very strong opinions about. Uh, some people see it as like this incredible guide to success,
Yeah.
climb the ladder.
Yeah.
And other people see it as this like handbook for manipulators.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really interesting, and it's all about power dynamics, and it draws on all these examples from ancient empires to modern politics.
Yeah, it's like he went through history and was like,
Yeah,
here are the patterns.
yeah, and like condensed it all down into these 48 laws.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this? Have you ever encountered these laws kind of in action, maybe without even realizing it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think what makes this book so interesting is that it's like he's not pulling any punches.
Right.
Like it's really showing you the kind of the raw underbelly of how power works.
Yeah.
Not the idealized version.
Yeah. And he doesn't waste any time. Like right out of the gate, he lays down some pretty heavy laws.
Oh, yeah.
Law 15, crush your enemy.
Totally. Right.
Like, whoa, okay. He makes the argument that like a defeated opponent can always rise again if you give him the chance. So like elimination is key, and then there's another law, 6 core detention at all costs. That visibility and notoriety, even if it's controversial, are essential for maintaining power. So it's like
Makes you think.
Right?
Yeah, and I think with those laws, like, while they do seem ruthless on the surface,
Sure.
there is a sort of deeper strategic logic there. Like,
Yeah.
when you think about law one, never outshine the master,
Right.
it's not just about being submissive, right? It's about understanding that the person in power has an ego.
Yeah.
And by, subtly demonstrating your competence without threatening them, you can actually
Yes.
gain their trust, avoid competition.
It's so true. I mean, it's like
It's very practical.
that's like that dance that happens in offices all the time, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like
Navigating the egos.
totally navigating those power dynamics is sometimes more important than
Yeah.
your actual work.
Totally. And speaking of kind of blending in, he's got Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others.
Right.
So, adapting to those social norms to avoid unwanted attention.
Oh, yeah. We've all done that,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, I think Green is very good at pointing out that there's this duality to power.
Yeah.
Like, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad.
Yeah.
It all comes down to intent.
Right. It's a tool, and you can use it to build or destroy.
Exactly.
But then there are laws that are just like, I don't know, like Law 28, interaction with boldness,
Oh,
where he suggests you should double down on mistakes
Interesting.
to create this aura of intentionality. Like, could that really work, or is that just reckless?
It's a fascinating one because it really speaks to the power of perception. And I think there are definitely personality types that are more suited for that.
Right.
Like someone who's naturally bold and charismatic might be able to pull it off.
Right.
Someone who's not might just...
Crash and burn.
Exactly, yeah.
And then there's another one, Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. So on the one hand, it's like, yeah, stay connected, build alliances, that's good.
Right.
But couldn't that also make you vulnerable?
Yeah. It's that paradox, right? Like,
Yeah.
you need to be connected to succeed, but
But not too connected.
you can be taken advantage of.
Yeah, it's like you're walking a tightrope, right?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, And that's what makes Green so thought-provoking. He's really challenging us to examine these power dynamics in all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely.
And to think about how we can use that knowledge to our advantage.
It's true.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like the boardroom or, the
Yeah.
political arena. This is like everyday stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's everywhere.
This is getting into some like ethically gray area here.
Yeah.
Does Green even address like the potential for these laws to be used for not so good purposes?
He does, and that's one of the things that makes this book so interesting.
Okay.
He doesn't shy away from the fact that they can be used for good or evil.
So it's less about like being a good person
Yeah.
and more about like understanding how power works.
Exactly. It's like studying the laws of physics, Like
Wow.
gravity is a neutral force.
Yeah.
You can use it to build a bridge or you can use it to drop a bomb.
Right.
It's the same with these laws of power.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
So the responsibility lies with the person using it.
exactly. And that's where I think the real value of the book is.
Okay.
Not in like following every single law, but in understanding the dynamics.
Yeah.
It's like recognizing patterns of human behavior.
So it's almost like more about awareness than action.
Totally.
Like you see someone using a tactic from the book,
Right.
and you're like, oh, I see what you're doing there.
Exactly. You can kind of decode their strategy.
Even if you wouldn't use it yourself.
Right. It gives you a framework
Yeah.
for interpreting events.
Okay.
You
Interesting.
Remember Law 28, the one about entering action with boldness?
Oh, the doubling down on mistakes one? Yeah, that one still makes me a little nervous.
Well, imagine you're in a negotiation
Okay.
and the other party makes what seems like a very risky move.
Right.
If you understand Law 28, you might recognize that that's actually a power play.
Oh, so they're trying to like psych me out?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so instead of panicking, you can kind of see it for what it is.
That's actually really smart.
Right. So whether you agree with the ethics of a certain law or not,
Yeah.
just knowing that it exists gives you an advantage. You can anticipate moves.
You can see through the BS.
Exactly.
It's like a secret decoder ring
It is, yeah.
for all these like historical events and
For human behavior.
yeah, and just like everyday interactions.
Yeah.
You start to see the puppet strings.
Yeah, and that can be really empowering. It takes away some of the fear and mystery around power.
Okay, so if we're talking about using this book as a tool for understanding, for self-protection,
Right.
does that mean like everyone should read it?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for everyone.
Right.
Some people might find it unsettling,
Sure.
and there's always the risk that someone could misunderstand it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Use it for the wrong reasons.
Right. It's like giving someone a loaded weapon.
Right. You got to be responsible.
You have to be ethical. Yeah.
But at the same time, like ignoring these realities of power
Right.
doesn't make them go away.
Exactly. It's like a cautionary tale in a way.
Oh, interesting.
It shows you the dark side of human ambition.
And it makes you ask questions about yourself.
Totally, yeah.
Like, am I willing to do this?
Yeah.
Am I being manipulated?
Am I playing by these rules without even knowing it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
It is, but it's also exciting.
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Okay, so we've talked about the laws. We've talked about the ethics, the potential for both good and bad.
Right.
But how do we actually apply this?
Right. How do we make it practical?
Yeah, how can our listeners use this in their own lives?
Yeah. Without turning into a Machiavellian mastermind.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we do this? So we spent a lot of time, unpacking this book and looking at, how controversial it is and the ethics of it all. But like, how do we actually use this stuff?
Right. Like, how do we take these ideas and actually put them into practice?
Yeah, in a way that doesn't turn us into like, evil masterminds.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about becoming some kind of manipulative genius. It's more about like understanding the game so you can play it better.
So being savvy.
Exactly. Savvy strategic. It's like developing your strategic intelligence.
Okay, I like that.
And a lot of these laws, even though they sound kind of, harsh on the surface, they actually have a lot of practical applications.
Okay, like what?
Well, take Law 4, for example. Always say less than necessary.
Okay.
That's not about being secretive. It's about communication.
Yeah.
Listening more, choosing your words carefully.
It's like that old saying, you have 2 ears in one mouth for a reason.
Exactly.
Like take it all in before you start talking.
It's so powerful, especially in like negotiations or even just everyday conversations.
Okay, just be more thoughtful.
And then there's Law 22. Use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power.
Okay, that sounds kind of counterintuitive.
It is. It's not about giving up. It's about strategically yielding.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe you appear to concede on a small point.
To get what you really want.
Exactly. It's like playing chess. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a pawn.
Right, to win the game.
Exactly. It's about thinking ahead.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anticipating your opponent's moves.
So strategy.
Strategy, exactly. But I know some of these laws, they can feel a little icky to even think about using.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, how do you actually apply something like Law 15, crush your enemy? Totally.
Right. Well, that's where you have to remember that Green's book, it's a reflection of history.
Okay.
It's not a guide to morality.
So don't take it literally.
Exactly. But even the more ruthless-sounding laws, they can offer valuable insights.
Okay, so it's metaphorically.
Metaphorically, exactly. Like with Law 15, instead of thinking about like crushing an actual person,
Right.
think about it like this. What's a recurring obstacle in your life?
Like a bad habit or something.
Exactly. Or a negative pattern that keeps holding you back. Sometimes the only way to overcome those things is to completely eliminate them.
Wow. So it's not about revenge. It's about like self-improvement.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those patterns and saying, enough is enough. I'm cutting this out of my life.
Powerful.
And again, it comes back to intent. You're the one with the tools. You decide how you use them.
So really, this whole book, it's like a lens through which to view the world.
Exactly.
It can be dangerous if misused, but ultimately, it's up to you to determine how you're going to apply it.
It's about taking responsibility.
Yeah, taking responsibility for your own actions, your own choices.
And on that note, we have a question for you, our listeners.
Oh yeah, hit us with it.
If you could add a 49th law to this book, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What have you learned from your own experiences with power?
Right.
What wisdom would you add to Green's list?
Think about the laws we've discussed. Think about your own values and see what you come up with.
Yeah, let us know what your 49th law would be. We'd love to hear it.
Oh.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 48 laws of power.